tell us about the impact that we've seen from COVID-19, as well as you could say the Hong Kong protests here in the city. How many of the domestic workers that you work with have lost their jobs due to nationwide or lockdowns in other countries, or just families relocating?
So we've seen actually a slight increase in job terminations in Hong Kong. Usually we have around 5% of our users subscribing to the platform, actually registering to the platform to find a job because of termination of their contract, either because of the relocation of the employer or because of financial reasons. But so far, since January, it's been more around 13%. So yeah, there's a slight increase of terminated contracts.
Yeah, and even for some of the migrant workers that are perhaps in between employers or have to break contracts, it's by law that they have to go back to the Philippines or other countries in some economies. So in a way, they're waiting for the visas to get approved. They're kind of stuck in limbo, right? Are the embassies here able to process some of these cases right now, or is there a chance that they may not have a job to come back to?
Yeah, so actually it was quite an issue back in February, March, because of the travel ban that was also affecting foreign domestic workers when they wanted to come to Hong Kong, or even if they were on holidays in the Philippines, they couldn't come back to Hong Kong to work. Right now, the situation has gotten better. The Philippine government has reopened, so they're able to process the visas again. Otherwise, the Hong Kong government actually put in place some measures. So all the foreign domestic workers that are finishing their contracts now are able to extend the contract as well as extend their visa. And if they've been terminated, before they were only able to stay 14 days in Hong Kong, but now they can extend up to 1 month. So also the Hong Kong government is really trying to help them stay longer in Hong Kong, to enable them to find another job.
Mahi, do you have a sense, do you have the data in terms of remittances then to the Philippines, which of course a significant proportion of GDP is reliant on those remittances? To what extent are the cancelling of some of these contracts impacting that flow of money to the Philippines? Do you have a sense of what that is doing?
So actually there was a report back in 2018 about the amount of money that was brought to the Philippines from foreign domestic workers in Hong Kong, the ones working in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia. And this is actually more than $1 billion a year. As you mentioned before, there is now the growth in remittance slowed down compared to last year in the Philippines by 4%. But I really think what we see is really that it's the COVID situation that is affecting that. So when we'll be recover from the COVID situation, I think it will get back to normal, at least for domestic workers.
To what extent are the geopolitical tensions that are overshadowing Hong Kong putting off domestic workers? Is that being factored into their decisions now as to where they look to find work and what the prospects are? Is Hong Kong less appealing now?
It's not less appealing. Actually, we did a survey last year to assess the impact of the protests on foreign domestic workers. And what we found out is that more than 90% of them still wish to stay in Hong Kong for work. The reasons are that although the unrest is affecting their rest day, it's still a city where they have their minimum wage and the working conditions are above what they can find in other countries.
And we've seen not just in Hong Kong, but other countries as well, where I put India as an example with many migrant workers that are basically, they can't stay in these big city centers. They're forced to go home, some even walking. I mean, it's such a grave situation what we're seeing when it comes to these migrant workers that play such a big part of many South Asian and Southeast Asian economies. Do you think that this pandemic could lead to some positive change on how some migrant workers are treated?
Yeah, actually, we've seen, for example, we've seen more empathy from employers towards domestic workers in Hong Kong because they know that they cannot go out as much as before. We have to realize that domestic workers here, for example, they only have one rest day a week. And if they can't enjoy going out or seeing some friends because of social distancing, that's where technology is really important to avoid like social isolation, for example. And a lot of employers actually have told them from the feedback that we had a lot of helpers were saying their employer were really saying, that they have to rest more, that they have to take more time for themselves. Like they understood that the situation was even worse than it was before when it comes to working conditions. So I guess it creates more empathy and more communication between the employers and the helpers.